I think it was a little over a decade ago that the government of Ontario Premier Dalton McGuinty canceled the Northlander. They said it was simply too expensive to keep going, and therefore it doesn't exist anymore. Now, the current government, in its wisdom, has decided to try to resurrect it. And apparently contracts were recently awarded for station shelters and so on. How have we suddenly been able to afford something today that we were told a decade ago we simply could not afford to subsidize anymore?
Well, it's exactly that, political will and the will and willingness to put down the subsidies to the northwestern part of the province so that we can, too, be offered the ability to choose different types of transportation in between our communities. And so it's about political will. And yes, it's going to cost money. Northwestern Ontario people are Ontario citizens, too, who pay tax dollars as well. And the subsidies should be flowing this way as well. And it's political will. And, you know, there's a start place going on right now, and we just need to tweak it and find out how do we connect the communities that are off the main line.
Eric Miller, I've got a real nasty question for you, which is we have a finite amount of money to invest in different transportation infrastructure projects. If we can't afford everything, can't afford to build everything we want all over the place. Would resurrecting the Northlander, in your view, be the wisest expenditure for those billions?
That is a nasty question.
I warned you ahead of time.
Yeah,
I gave you the heads up.
And, you know, part of our problem is we have not been investing in both urban and inner city transport for so long, and we have such a catch-up that it is very daunting. I think, yes, probably, as a backbone to then build around. But to Eric's point, we also have to think about it as an entire network, the connectivity, you know, so the Northlander will connect major points. How do people get to and from that, from the remote communities? And so thinking about the overall service and thinking about it from the user point of view. So we have to be designing a service. Just building a rail line, that's a great first step. But then how do people get to and from it? And, you know, the same thing is true in sort of the southern corridor as well. It's the first mile, last mile. And that's where, again, technology and different types of services can help us connect, have that train really connect the communities together.
So this is an age-old problem. You've got 90% of the population of the province living within an hour of the U.S. border, but you've got people like Mayor Landry and like Eric Boutillier who are in Northern Ontario who feel that they're not getting their share of the pie. So how do we resolve all that?
Well, I'll take it back to the Northlander discussion here and then talk about the integration. The first thing is, if you're Doug Ford right now, you've staked your reputation in part on the Ring of Fire.
Yep. And
if you go to the Ministry of Transportation's website and take a look at their rail strategy or their strategy for Northern Ontario, there right in the middle is a picture of the Ring of Fire. Why is it there? Because you can't get workers to the Ring of Fire. You cannot get people to work in those mines. You cannot get them into the supply chain. Who is going to drive from Toronto and from Windsor to work in the Ring of Fire and to make all that money?
You had two levels of government arguing for 10 years over who's going to build the roads.
Well, exactly. So if you have staked your reputation on extraction of those minerals for an electrification industry of the future, you're going to have to build rail out and the integrated system. So then that speaks to the integrated system, like definitely it's going to be worth the billions because the income tax that presumably, and the corporate tax that should be coming back into our pocketbook. But even if we take that out of the picture, very low-hanging fruit that is Canadians, we have available tomorrow already. The fact of the matter is we have transit systems, public transit systems operating along the backbone of the Metrolinx line and all of VIA. Right now, today, when you get onto one of those transit systems from Kingston all the way down to Hamilton, your Presto card tells Metrolinx a lot about you when you get on. You get off your bus onto your train, but that data does not flow the other way. Every transit agency we work with, 22 agencies across that Metrolinx line, do not get information going the other way, telling them when our passengers are arriving, who are they, what kind of clientele do we have. So how do you get Burlington's buses and Oakville's buses to arrive right on time when you're not getting the data to come back? That is an immediate solution tomorrow. And for VIA, it's the same thing. There's no information sharing between VIA and local transit that already exists. If that happened, I guarantee to you we'd know a lot more about our clientele. We'd have more clientele to appeal to. The buses would know how to arrive and when to arrive, and poor Eric would not be stuck out behind a restaurant in the middle of nowhere because there would be a bus that had been given the information on that clientele.
Mayor Landry, do you see a future where you have hope that trains will once again come into Thunder Bay from around Ontario?
Well, you know, Steve, we used to have the Via Rail that used to come into Thunder Bay right now, but now it goes to Armstrong, Ontario, which is 3 hours north of Thunder Bay. So you have to find a way to get to Armstrong in order to take the Via to get either to go east or to go west. So I'm hoping that there's a political will to someday put forward. We still have train tracks here. We still have the CN-CP rail lines going through these areas and these communities. So, if there's a political will, upfront costs and long-term gain, we have a lot of jobs available in Northwestern Ontario. We believe that we are the future of Ontario because we have the natural resources and we have the abilities to produce natural resources, whether it's mining, forestry, lithium, the Ring of Fire. We believe that we're the future of Ontario, and we can help out. And so, if there's political will to help us out in bringing that train system this way, then I think it's possible.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.